Boom! We are live, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls. Welcome to the Life is a Chat YouTube channel. I thank all of you for being here, wherever you may be, and of course, however you may be listening. It's been a relatively slow week in the news. I may end up reacting to the Hunter Avalon situation, but to tell you the truth, it doesn't really interest me that much that libtard is acting like a libtard. Uh, I mean, what more can be said in a situation like that? Um, and I kind of only know what's going on peripherally with that. It would require some research into the actual situation. I heard a little bit with a debate, but there was something else, and I do want to react to this. That in Washington D.C. at one of the pristine government buildings, we're talking our federal government. Two men. There was a video leaked of two men having sex in one of these pristine buildings. I don't know how else to call it besides, because uh, there was a time where these buildings would have some spiritual reverence, just some reverence in general. But now, due to the secular nature that is our government, I can't even call it that. But it is a great example of where our society has come. And there's actually a follow-up story that I want to respond to that I think lends itself to this first story. And broadly speaking, what I'm referring to is the arrested development that is our society, where we are living in a society full of individuals that are adults with child mindsets, selfish, self-oriented, pagan, hedonistic, pleasure-seeking buffoons. And our society is crumbling because of that. There's only a small percent of society that remains that has any maturation, any will to give back to society, to the community around them, and leave this world, or country rather, a better place than when we found it, and do our small part towards that. And it's very, very interesting. I think the second one definitely lends itself to that. So we're going to react to this video here. And I'll be able to share this story with you. So let me get this pulled up here. I couldn't even believe it, guys, when I saw this. This is from Another Stupid Week. So let me make sure my volume is shared. There we go. We're really cooking now. Really cooking now, Kings. All right, here we go.
Honor have been returned. Hey, decency.
Get this all squared away. All right, here we go. Here we go.
Say decency and honor have been returned to the White House. Was it because all the cocaine deals that have gone on in the White House?
Oh.
No. Was it through the trans activist showing her cans to the world? No. So exactly where was that decency? Well,
That is so true. We live in this society where everything, the reality is exactly opposite from the lies and the deception that is told to us. We really do live in a society where the masses are giving into evil and Satan and demons far more than they are moving towards goodness and things of that nature. I mean, whether it's the transgender issue, whether it's foreign affairs, everything they tell us, the words that they state, the reality is literally the fucking exact opposite from what is said verbally. We live in a society of deception and degeneracy.
Up this staffer's butt. Aiden. I don't know how to say his name. I just know it's longer than the schlong that was inside of him.
Oh my
This has been a
gosh,
difficult
dude.
time for me, as I have been attacked for who I love.
So this guy, he must be Slavic. Cherovsky. And here's the thing, guys. This is like commonplace in DC. Okay. Most citizens have no idea of the real degeneracy that goes on in Washington, D.C. And before we continue, I do want to say this, okay, before I rip into this situation. Okay, I'm using this story to expound upon it and expand on a cultural, societal level. This young man, I got to tell you, okay, as a Christian, this is my take as a Christian specifically for this young man. Sadly, I hate that I have to say this, but it's true that it is really not that surprising to see a young man doing this type of stuff when our youth and society is inundated with evil, degenerate lies. They are propagandized, and I cannot in good faith look at this kid and put him and have this same sort of reaction to him that I would to and him doing this thing to Joe Biden and what Joe Biden does, because ultimately Joe Biden is the one that facilitates the deception, and it infiltrates a guy like this guy that we're about to see. So it's easier to get more upset with the person who is actually promoting and pushing said degeneracy. Okay. This young man is just a guy who is living in a society that encapsulates all that. Is it bad that he's engaging in these types of actions? Of course it is. But ultimately, as a Christian, if we want to see this country turned around and changed, we have to have understanding, not for the sin. We need to call that out. Okay. I fucking cannot stand Christians who say, who am I to judge? Who am I to judge? Okay. We call out the sin, but we do not turn away. It is not loving to turn away from people like this. Because ultimately, if we can reach people like this, see, people like Joe Biden, the ones who are making the decisions and putting the content out that a young man like this takes in, like I'll give you a perfect example of what I'm saying. Do I blame the young man who takes heroin, or what's the new big drug that's I can't remember the new drug that's being put in all of these. I think it's like some sort of tranquilizer. But do I blame that kid? Do I turn that kid away, or do I blame the drug dealer who sells said heroin or fentanyl? That's the drug I'm looking for, fentanyl. No, you call out the bad behavior to the kid and say, no, it's wrong that you took that. but I am not going to turn away from you, and I am going to love you. Or by me not turning away from you, I am showing you love in trying to give you the support needed to turn this around and turn to God. That is a perfect metaphor for what I'm talking about with the Joe Biden and this kid situation. So while what this kid did is grotesque and sad and degenerate and all of the above, he is just the pawn. He is just the culmination of this shit society that we live in right now. So, I just, because I think what tends to happen in specifically the space that I'm in, let's just say the right wing of things, the kind of nationalistic side of things, maybe even really by and large the conservative side, is because we have been pushed aside for so long and ridiculed and propagandized and just put down and lied about, that when we see things like this, we have a very strong reaction and we want to condemn it super, super hard. And I'm not saying that, I want to make it perfectly clear. I'm not saying to not call out the sin, because I cannot stand when people say, who am I to judge? No, no. As Christians, that is our duty, is to, one, live a Christian life through our actions and works, and two, to call out misdeeds and things like that and to promote goodness and godliness. But I'm simply just adding a caveat that it's one thing to condemn somebody like Joe Biden or the heroin dealer. It's another to completely disregard and throw to the side and chastise the person who, who is the bystander, not innocent, but the bystander of those evil actions. And we should have the mindset of trying to, even sinners, to bring them back to God, because that is what God would call us to do. It just is. So there just has to be some understanding, and nobody is too far gone to be redeemed in the eyes of the Lord. But let's keep watching this.
Love to a political agenda.
Yeah. There we go.
Some of my actions in the past have shown, as I have been attacked for who I love, that was inside of them. This has been a difficult time for me, as I have been attacked for who I love to pursue a political agenda. Oh, really? I don't think it's for who you love, it's where you are doing the loving, Aiden. Well, some of my actions in the past.
So I actually disagree with that guy. So I actually disagree with him. I'm really just using this as a way to summarize the story. No. Where it happened is, while it's terrible and it definitely shows how far our society has fallen, the main issue is what the action was. Okay. That is equally, if not more, of an issue here than where it was done. Because really, if you think about it, let's look at this through a secular lens. Okay. If this kid gets into trouble, it's not going to be because he had sex with another man, because that's legal under the law. It's going to be because of where he did it. Now, me, that is less important where it happened, while still degenerate and a pixelation of the fallenness of our society. The main issue here is the engagement and the out in the open engagement of this guy with another man like that. Okay. And I think it's yet another example of what I'm talking about this kid just being a bystander of the society that has, you know, brought him up ultimately. And I think that this kid is an example of the failure that our society continues and has done in the past as well, but continues to provide to our young American citizens. So I do disagree with him on that. It is what he did and who he did it with that is equally as bad, if not more. Okay. I would say it's more of an issue than where he did it. Okay. They're both not good, but you know.
Past have shown poor judgment. Oh, have they? Which
Oh,
ones? I love my job. Yeah, we can see that. It looks like you're having a great time there, buddy. And I would never disrespect
I'm
my
having
workplace.
a good old
Yeah.
time.
Why would anyone get that idea? So, in summary, if you have a problem with me banging a dude in, at the
In summation,
office and filming it, that means you hate gays. Why, with a response like that, I never would have guessed he was a Democrat. Obviously, the media will have his back, just like his boyfriend, and go with Republicans pounce. Oh, Republicans pounce. Well, there's a lot of pouncing going on in that room, and it wasn't Republicans. Woo! These jokes just aren't going to stop.
anyways, so I also want to add, guys, that this is, this degeneracy is as big of an issue within the Republican Party. And that's really the issue here is the degeneracy, okay, that is pushing our society to collapse. It just is. And I think this second story actually illustrates that really well, and I'm going to expound upon it. Now just one more thought on that whole situation is it shocking? Yes. I mean, I couldn't believe I fucking saw that when I did. Okay. That is insane. That is the type of society we live in. But again, no pun intended. Again, these are just the byproducts of the fucked up society with these fucked up worldviews that are pushing themselves onto young adults. And yes, we should still try to turn individuals like this away from their sin and away from evil like that. I mean, ultimately, adults should be held accountable, but I do also believe to some extent, not a ton, okay, because even in the red pill space, when it comes to women and them taking accountability, it's only to a certain extent that I'm going to say this. Some people don't know what they don't know, okay? And yes, a lot of people are ignorant. And a lot of people, in fact, I would say most people do not want to know truth. They actively avoid it. They actively turn away from it. And so you cannot be surprised when these plebs, these average individuals who are being bombarded with this worldview end up participating in said worldview. And I think really what I'm getting at is, as Christians, we need to be involved without sinning in, because we're you hear Christians say, we're not of this world, and I Christians of all worldviews use that frame to back their stance on any particular subject. But for me in particular, and I'm going to do it right now as well, we are to engage and be participants without sinning in this fucked up world, while simultaneously, not being of this world. It's kind of hard to articulate. Like, you cannot turn your back to the sin, is what I'm saying. You cannot turn your back to it. You have to have your eyes open to it fully, so that you can know the truth and try and reach those individuals who are wanderers, mindless wanderers, without direction, without truth, without God's love. So I don't believe as Christians we are to completely avoid and turn our backs to this secular world. Okay, we're not supposed to participate in the way of, by way of sin, but we are supposed to see what is going on so that we can save as many people as we can. Okay, so let me pull up this other video here real quick. So this is from Paul Joseph Watson, and I'm going to combine these two stories here. So we'll go ahead and listen to this real quick. This is from his Modernity channel. Definitely go check it out. I think he's got a lot of good stuff, and I think he's a pretty good reporter.
They struggle to handle virtually anything, but this one really takes the biscuit. Gen Z suffers from menu anxiety when dining out, with many too scared to order their own meals. Imagine being so riddled with apprehension you're scared by a menu. A study conducted by British restaurant chain Prezzo revealed that
I gotta say, I love how Paul, he's had years of practice, how he does scared by a menu. How he kind of has these how he says stuff, how the voiceovers that he has. I think it's fucking funny. And there's some really good ones that will have me fucking rolling sometimes. Fucking menu.
Gen Z aren't just conducted by British restaurant chain Prezzo revealed that Gen Z aren't just petrified of leaving their own homes. The list of written food options, if they even get to a restaurant, is equally terrifying. Researchers asked more than 2,000 people how relaxed they felt while eating out, hoping to gauge how enjoyable the experience is for everyone. About 86%.
Sorry guys, let's go back a little bit. And then when he does the leftist voice, I can't even do it. It's really good. It's really clever how he does it. How he basically is able to encapsulate this like soy boy, feminazi, blue pill, NPC. It's great.
A study conducted by British restaurant chain Prezzo revealed that Gen Z aren't just petrified of leaving their own home, their own meals. Imagine being so riddled with apprehension you're scared by a menu. A study conducted by British restaurant chain Prezzo revealed that Gen Z aren't just petrified of leaving their own homes. The list of written food options, if they even get to a restaurant, is equally terrifying. Researchers asked more than 2,000 people how relaxed they felt while eating out, hoping to gauge how enjoyable the experience is for everyone. About 86% of Gen Z adults aged 18 to 24 in the study admit they've suffered from menu anxiety when dining in restaurants, compared to 67% of all respondents. And
okay, so I wanted, that's pretty much it. Maybe we'll watch a little bit more.
Over a third are so anxious they have to get someone else at the table to talk to the waiter for them. The survey revealed that the cost of the meal, choosing the actual meal, and then regretting it after they made the choice, was driving the fear. In fact, a full 40% of young people said they'd refuse to even go out if they couldn't check the menu online beforehand. According to Professor Gabriel Rubin, the fact fact that they're terminally online is part of what's driving Gen Z's angst. But the condition has been worsened as a result of corona lockdowns. Because so many Gen Zers are anxious and because so many have trouble in non-digital social spaces, even activities as simple as ordering food sometimes become things to be avoided. Fascinating how 1 in 5, about 20% of Gen Z, now identify as LGBTQI++ whatever. Many of them are supremely confident in asserting their preferred pronouns and gender identity. Many of them are obnoxiously confident in asserting their political beliefs, while being vehemently scornful in vilifying you for yours. Yet when it comes to looking at a restaurant menu and choosing between a steak and a burger, they're at risk of having public nervous breakdowns because it's just so damn difficult to choose.
Great point. So here is how I'm going to connect these two stories. So I think both of these two things are examples of the same thing, which is a society that is corrupt, full of degeneracy, evil, and lies. And when I first saw this story, I was actually out with family, and we were discussing it. I was actually talking to my grandmother about this story, and she said, she goes, I thought that people were more that people grew up faster nowadays. And we get into this big discussion, and I said, ultimately, I'm like, come on, Grandma. No, I'm kidding. But ultimately, what it is there is a difference between having exposure to bad things such as pornography, sex, drugs, and other illicit things, and becoming more grown up faster, or being in full-fledged maturation and fully developed as an adult. Those are two different things. And I would say actually that with my background in psychology, and yes, you guys can make fun of me for that if you'd like, is those things, specifically pornography, being exposed to sex way sooner, social media, uh, uh, and all those things, okay, actually, because of the young age that these young kids are seeing these illicit things, drugs, and having exposure to them, because they are having exposure to these things when their minds and emotional intelligence and brain development is not fully formed, it actually ends up being a traumatic experience. And it actually ends up being something that stunts their actual growth, because nowadays we basically have all of this artificial nonsense that is not real. And, for example, you take pornography, it simulates, but it's not the actual thing. And there are downsides to that. You are going against God's design. And yes, naturally there's going to be a downside to that. So I would say that the exposure to those things actually lend itself, by way of trauma and not being in a place emotionally or intelligence wise to fully analyze and think through what you have witnessed and seen, ends up being a bad experience for these young kids. And so when it ends up being traumatic, they end up, anybody who goes through trauma, because it has stunted their growth as a human being, they don't have the ability to cope in a healthy, mature manner. and they end up spending all of this time trying to either sedate and numb their pain and trauma, or they lie to themselves and just run away from those issues fully. Either way, the outcome is stunted growth. And we end up now, we're in a society where we have all of these people that are essentially adults physically with childlike minds. Then you add to it, okay, you take it a step further, and let's just look at both sexes for a minute, okay? Let's look at males, okay? Males are in the West are increasingly in a society with no purpose, no direction, nothing to commit themselves to. They most young men spend all day jacking off to artificial sex that is not real. It ends up lowering their testosterone level. On top of that, they have video games and they're probably scrolling through Instagram and shit like that. And you also have for them the outside pressures and propaganda, especially if they happen to be a white man, a white non-homosexual man, that comes with that. In telling themselves and being told over and over and over that they're responsible for all of the terrible crimes that have happened throughout humanity. So you take all of that and you go, yeah, I'm sure that it's not surprising that these fucking Gen Zers have no actual ability to cope in a and be actual mature, well-adjusted adults. It's not surprising. Then you go to the female side of things, okay, where they pretty much spend all fucking day posting on Instagram for instant gratification and this like plus 300% level of gratification and attention that in other societies they would never have gotten. Okay. Social media has literally increased the amount of attention and gratification that women will experience throughout their lifetime by like 1,000%. Okay. So they end up spending all fucking day on Instagram, social media, searching for their next hit of gratification, attention. And if they're not just on Instagram, they're also on OnlyFans. So they're making the OnlyFans content that those fucking young men with low testosterone, these non-well-adjusted young men with no purpose, with no drive, with no ambition, those same women are making the content that they spend all day jacking off to. So it's like, yeah, it's not surprising that these individuals, these Gen Zers, are scared shitless to make any sort of decision, no matter how big or how small. They are terrified of it. You also add to that the lockdowns, as Paul Joseph Watson said, where the social distance was there, and what was not there was social interaction, love, care, all the normal shit that human beings need to grow, to develop and survive, ultimately towards becoming a well-adjusted adult who contributes to society. There used to be a day and age where the main goal that an American citizen would have would be to just be a functioning, contributing member of society. Now, the percentage of adults who are that is much smaller. So, I mean, and I could go even further than that. I mean, I really could. You know, you add the drugs, you add the propaganda, you add the lies, you add, for example, with women, you add the lie of feminism. Um, you know how I'm sure it provides anxiety when you now I know they don't see it this way, okay? Because they don't know any better. They're ignorant, as I was saying in the first clip that we watched, which is why we have to have some room in our heart towards understanding. But I'm sure it provides the end point of this is ultimately anxiety, which is going against your nature. Men and women have a nature that God has bestowed on us, an essence. And when you are actively going against it, you are going against your soul. You're going against your genes. You're going against your fucking DNA. And yeah, I'm sure that provides anxiety. And so with women, it is them living in this or having this masculine boss babe um kind of mindset, which is totally antithesis to what they are in their natural environment, which is nurturing, caring, supportive, loving. I'm sure it provides anxiety and day by day chips away at their well-being. For men, being told that you're a shit person because you are a man, that deep down inside you just want to grape everybody, and you need to feel sorry because you're a man, and you need to just shut the fuck up and learn to listen because you've done all the talking for millions of years. You've had all the power. You need to just sit down, shut the fuck up, and learn to like it. And so these young men end up being these neutered, castrated, low T, non ambitious, beta pussies. And they're going against their nature by not being in their masculine, not being a man. So this is not surprising to me at all. And ultimately, the reason why I wanted to show these two videos together is because it's an illustration of the issue at large, which is the degeneracy, the lies, the hedonism, the evil, the all of it. We live in a society that is hedonistic, self-oriented, selfish, me driven. And you also couple that with the countless amount of lies on a day-to-day basis, both on a national level and just on a day-to-day local level, that are inundated to young men and women. It's not surprising that they end up being fucking goofballs that can't even fucking order something from a menu. They can't even make a simple choice on what to feed themselves. And these are going to be the people in the future, the mindless zombies that end up voting and contributing towards somebody becoming a president. And we all know that those people who said that it did provide them with anxiety, they are predominantly more liberal, left-leaning, non-traditional individuals. So those are going to be the type of people that end up promoting this self-perpetuating cycle, and why this country is in trouble. I don't think we're going to see it change in our lifetime. I think we're seeing the end point of a couple hundred years of this kind of liberal mindset. And we're seeing the culmination and bad results of it. But this is why you need God. This is why you need a Christian society, because you need family. You need a two-parent household. You need a sense of community, a sense of purpose. And you need to even a lot of well-known atheists say this, Christianity, religion really, but mainly Christianity, gives people a sense of belonging. And that is important in this society. Now, I'm not using that as like the end-all be-all argument for why we should implement this type of world, but it does lend itself to all of those things. And one more point I want to make. My grandmother, when we were talking about this, she asked me, well, wasn't this the case also? So ultimately, the case that I was making to her is that nowadays people are, if you take a 21-year-old now and compare it to a 21-year-old from anywhere before the 80s, it's night and day. And this 21-year-old is going to be far less mature, far less closer to adulthood and full-fledged adulting, and just ready to contribute citizen, that compared to this 21-year-old from any time period before the 80s. And she asked me, try to make the point. She wasn't disagreeing with me. We were just having a discussion, but well, wasn't this type of degeneracy happening in the 60s, in the hippie movement and things like that? And it's like, listen, this is nothing new. There's nothing new under the sun. But the difference between the 60s and now, and the 80s as well, but it probably really started in the 80s a little bit more so, is even though you had that, the 80s had cocaine, in the 60s, you had the hippie, and you did kind of have a revitalization, a revolution for sure. The 60s was a very interesting time. But the difference is you still had much of your society that was Christian, that was family oriented, that believed in duty to your family, to your country, and to yourself. That you owe it to yourself to be a well-adjusted, contributing member of society. Now, not only do we have all these drugs and all these new things that society has never seen before, the access to artificial sex, social media, shit like that. Not only do we have all of that, which differentiates us from people living in the 60s, but you also have the complete breaking up through divorce laws of the family unit. And you basically have all of these kids that are the product of a single parent home. And all of that is why we're in dire straits, guys. We really, really are. And ultimately things tend to happen. You can see it happening. You can see it going downhill. But when it happens, it happens very quickly. Like you can see the issues, but when it goes, it'll all happen in it very quickly. And you'll have nothing there will be nothing you can do to stop it. It happens all at once, very quickly. People from the 60s, while there was the hippie movement and an attempt to escape from the status quo, from the establishment, if you will, there still was a mass, widespread association with Christianity, duty, national pride, purpose, and things like that. And nowadays, we're completely devoid of it. All right, guys. Thank you guys so much for watching. This video did end up being a little bit longer than I wanted, but I think it ended up being a really good discussion, and I hope you guys enjoy it. Let me know what you guys think in the comment section. Be sure to like, comment, share, subscribe. Subscribe. You guys know the drill. The channel continues to grow, and I thank all of you guys for your support. I really, really do. I try and comment to all the comments I can. You know, I just, for the most part, as long as they're respectful, I'll, even the ones that aren't, I will try and engage with and give it a go. So, but thank you guys so much for your support. You know, your boy appreciates it. And last but not least, DBAP, don't be a pussy alone. Facts or feelings, because your feelings just don't matter. Love you, kings. See you guys next time. Christ is king. Peace.